Hi, welcome to the Pints Polishing Podcast. I'm Marshall. That's Nick. You can find us at hypercleanstore.com. Go check out the products, or if you want to interact, be a part of the community, go to HyperClean Specialist Group on Facebook. Great place to be right there. Nick, I'm diving into a fan favorite, definitely always. This is one beer that you have definitely began to name for us in the Fruity Pebbles gang. It is a popular one. Voodoo Ranger Juicy Haze IPA. This one is special. Actually, this one here, I'm hoping. Okay, good. I dropped it earlier, and I was a little cautious that it had to set for a while, and I was waiting for that moment where we got to splash all over me, and that would have been interesting, right? Yep. So, special beer because of what we talked about a second ago, but also for the part of what I'm buying here today, right? At the gas station this weekend, I go, you know what? I'm going to go grab some beers. Found the Voodoo Ranger, right? We've now entered into multiple gas stations. Got to love that. And I'm at my favorite, which is called Come and Go. Yep. Everybody inside the pub remembers Come and Go. It is spelled with a K. And yes, it is a real place. So wow. I know.
Speechless early in this episode.
But it's a real place. And I'm checking out, and the guy goes, good beer. I had the, and he listed off the other one. I had the other one last night and drank 5 of them.
Whoa. Hey, that's chilling.
Right? Like, first of all, I'm impressed that the guy took down 5. Now I'm realizing he's talking about the one that we all say tastes like, and I tell him, I go, hey, yeah, we all say that tastes like high C meets beer. So he kind of laughs, and he's like, yeah. We check out, and I'm walking away, and he goes, hey, just so you know, there's a mushroom festival in OKC next weekend.
Wow.
Okay. Out in the middle of everybody while I'm already at the door in front of everybody, he yells that out. And I go,
wow.
Yeah. Okay. Right? Like,
wow.
Thanks.
Hey, strange place with a strange name with even stranger people. Hey, Tulsa, let me tell you something. Listen to all you beer community people. You're way weirder than you think you are. I've stated it. I've tried to help you. I'm out of the help business. You guys are on your own. And you know who you remind me of. Let me go ahead into it because it just happened less than 20 minutes ago. My buy and sell, Marty, was going to be very different. I'm going to sell the non-tipper. Enough is enough. So we go out of our way. Great customer of ours refers somebody to us and says, hey, he's my coworker. Can you help me out? Now, mind you, his coworker makes a great living. Definitely not making $10 million a year, but is making $500 or more a year because he has a public salary. We know that. So we go out of our way to detail this guy's extremely filthy Yukon Denali XL, not a small vehicle. You happen to be on a Zoom call. We had a meeting this morning. I'm trying to get this guy taken care of with my guy. We go completely out of our way and really don't like doing business with these kind of people. He's made it a little bit difficult, but again, it's a referral. My guy gets out there. It looks like a Raising Cane's exploded inside the car. Kids, hasn't been cared for. We've all seen it. My guy texts me. He goes, hey, man, I got this handled. It's going to take a while, whatever. Just letting you know. Said, cool. Start sending me pictures. They're horrible. I'm like, wow, man, I wouldn't have put you in that situation. He's like, all good, man. I wanted the work. You know, we agreed on it. It's all good. So the guy should have already been double the price. Now, mind you, I told him to bring this car to the shop because I knew when he told me it probably needed some deep steam clean. It needed some love. Wouldn't listen to me, so he went for the cheapest package ever. So my guy works his tail off this morning, gets the car back into shape. The guy comes out. I ask him over text message. I'm like, hey, man, we take card and cash. What do you want to pay? I want to pay cash. Usually a pretty good sign for my guys that they're going to get something because the guy's got to look you in the eye. Hands my guy the money, gives him the double pat on the shoulder and says, thanks, buddy, with the exact dollar amount that he owes. Now, I want everybody to understand that I understand that tipping culture has gotten out of control. You buy a $2.50 cup of coffee, somebody wants a $5 tip. I got it. Things have gotten a little out of hand. But let me explain what tipping is at a tire shop, at a mechanic, at detailers, landscapers, whatever. When you've neglected something and somebody helps you out, that is a perfect time to tip. And if you don't tip, you are what is known in my world as a shitbag. Excuse my language. There's no more beating around the bush with you people. And I know some of you listening are these individuals. Just statistically, that's the reality. You're bad people. And you don't tip because it's expected. You tip because you go, hey, this guy just stepped into my problem, fixed it for me while I was at work. I'm going to show a little appreciation. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Hey, you've had that sound in your engine that went on a little too long, and you drop it at the mechanic and you go, dude, I really need this back. And he's like, I got your back. It's kind of a perfect time to give that mechanic a little tip at the end and go, hey, man, I put you in a bad spot. This is on me. The knocking sound was going on for far too long. That's on me. We've all put somebody in a bad spot like this guy did. The thanks, buddy, 2 taps on the shoulder is a sign that you don't get it. And quite frankly, I want you to know everybody's making fun of you behind your back. They may not say it to your face, which is why you're still acting this way, but let's call a spade here, and you know it, Marty. This is a guy not getting invited to the buddies trip. So if you're 25 years old and wondering where this all ends, if you're that guy, let me explain where it ends. Your friends are going to do cool shit, and they're just going to leave you out of it because you've embarrassed them too often. And let me give you an example. Have you seen the pictures and videos from the Sphere this weekend with U2 and the concert and whatever? Let me give you an example. I was given 2 tickets to opening night. Now, let me be clear about something else. U2 stinks, and I'm not going to the Sphere to see U2. Not going to happen. So, did I give it to my buddy who I know may go there and not tip the bartenders or whatever, or did I give my tickets to a buddy that I go, he's a good guy? Which one do you think got the tickets?
I think you should have gone to YouTube, man. What the hell's wrong with you?
Wow. Guys, this may be the last podcast. The come and go, the fruity pebbles. I may be at my limit because this no tipping thing just happened. Now, mind you, let me tell you, for all you business owners, what I'm going to do. My guys are going to get the equivalent of a tip from me because they deserve the tip. So they're going to make more. They're not the ones that are going to take a hit. They would have gotten the whole tip anyway. I don't keep tips. So the bottom line is, when you get to a certain age, your buddies are just not going to do stuff with you, right? Like you're come to the backyard barbecue guy, but not go on the cool trip to XYZ, part of Hawaii or, whatever trip you guys and families end up taking. You just get left out. So you don't actually know that it's hurting you until it's too late. And most of you never catch on, but I got to bring it up. I'm selling the guy that doesn't understand the times in life that tips should be a requirement. And that's when somebody bails you out of trashing your car or running your engine into the ground at your mechanics or helping you with some bald tires on a last minute that you let go. There are just times to tip that are just, to me, non-negotiables.
So then let's go ahead and just make this the trifecta of the podcast. And did you know today is National Name Your Car Day?
Oh, my God. I'm serious. This might be the last Pints and Polishing podcast. You're pushing me, Marty. You're pushing me. I'm telling you right now, I'll log off and publish like 5 minutes of this podcast. Like I'm telling everybody listening, this could be the end. Like,
so you didn't participate, I guess is what you're saying. So, all right, thinking about the Spear, though, it was cool. I thought you were going to go with, when you start talking about the Spear, I thought you were going to go with how many people had their cell phones out. And you were going to give your tickets to the guy that didn't have a cell phone out because, I think everybody saw the Sphere this weekend. And then we saw the amount of other people else recording off of their phones. I mean, that's all it was. I
Well,
can't imagine there was anybody there that didn't have their phone up.
And I always say this. Do you ever watch those videos again on your phone? No. I mean, so why are you taking the video? Nobody cares that you're at the Sphere, dude. There's like thousands of people there. It's not like you're at, you're at a Metallica concert with 5 people in attendance and you're like, look at how special I am. Like, there's thousands of people there. I'll give you one better. I got the real numbers. $100 to $150 parking, all cash. Got over $300,000 just in parking that night. And I'm sitting here and people wonder why I didn't go to U2. Number one, their music stinks. And I'm not going down there to see the Sphere. Like, it's all good, man. I'll go see a band I want to go see. So my buddy went. He's not super into U2, but he's like, look, it'd be a good thing to take my wife. We need to get out of the house. I said, okay, take these 2 tickets. So, and by the way, when you give somebody tickets, you don't charge them. Let me make that clear as well, because a lot of guys want to get their money back. If you can't go or you don't want to go, you give the tickets. Now, I happen to be gifted these tickets, so you don't charge somebody, a friend especially or family member. But anyway, look, he goes, I had a great time. He goes, it's a lot. He goes, honestly, you end up not watching the band. You're watching all of the stuff going on around the band. And he's like, at some point, dude, it was like overload. He goes, it was nice. It was an incredible experience. But he's like, dude, there's so much going on. You don't even. And I said, well, that's the best way to see U2 when you don't have to listen to them. So he goes, yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. I said, so I could have gone to the U2 concert and just, chilled out and watched the graphics and everything go on. But yeah, it seemed like it was awesome. He had a great time. But $30 drinks.
So to answer Billy's question, I mean, is that what we're doing? Is we're going to the Sphere, huh? For $30 drinks.
Hey, if you guys want to chip in, we'll go to the Sphere. I got to think most people aren't looking at that $1,500 ticket price tag thinking to themselves, let's go to the Sphere. And then $30 drink night.
But what Billy was talking about, and this came out of the specialist group, is we're pretty close, right? Now we're around the corner of what used to be in our industry the pinnacle, right? It sort of is what wind down the busy season and kind of prepped us for getting ready for the slower times. And we got to see what everybody been building on and working on throughout the year. And this, what I'm talking about, is SEMA. Yep. So interesting thoughts coming around SEMA coming into the year. Go ahead and tell us yours.
It's been a little bit strange. We're pretty connected, and we talked to a lot of companies that are going. It's October 2nd. This goes off October 31st, I believe, is the first day, if I'm not mistaken. I would tell you this. It seems to be very quiet, doesn't it? Yeah. It seems to be very, very quiet. And I think a lot of people have had tough years. They're starting to see that it's been tough. They know that they got some tough times ahead. A lot of people have not had a good 2023 on the manufacturing side of things, on the chemical side, on the tool side, on the pad side, list goes on. And obviously, I think we're going to see more battery operated tools at SEMA. There's some companies that really need to catch up that got caught, by Milwaukee releasing their polishers. So I would guess we're going to see more battery operated tools will be the big launches. But I don't know how they're going to beat the best battery operator in the world. So I'd be curious to see what they're going to come up with. I think SEMA is going to be interesting because when it is quiet like this, it's usually pretty quiet. And the show last year was not impressive, as I stated. After a hiatus, you thought last year would be like blow it out. Let's all show everything we got. Wasn't really that. I'm probably going to go down there for very little time this year, except for all of our set meetings we'll have. Just doesn't seem exciting. I hope it is. I hope everybody does well with the show. But Marty, usually by July, we start to hear real big SEMA stuff. We're now October 2nd. We haven't really heard much of anything.
No, we haven't. It has been very quiet. All right, let's get over to, like Billy and some of the others, get over to some of the things coming into the hyperCLEAN specialist group. We got Thomas this week. He'll be working with Uno, And he lives out in East Texas. And he says, probably a 50-50 paved dirt road to driveways, so we can all, we can understand that. There's plenty of that around here. He's wondering during the curing process, driving down a dirt road, right? Will that affect the coating? For instance, right, we put a coating on and within a couple hours to an hour, can somebody go drive it? And if they drive it, can it run down a dirt road? Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Is it the best, right? We talk about this, sometimes should you or could you, and should, right? Like, can you? Yeah, you can. I mean, should you? It's not really the best, but if you've got to do it, sure. The main thing you really got to be careful about, from my stance, what I'm going to say is liquid. Because you interject liquid, then the dirt, and the coating's not finished curing, that's when you're going to run into some. And when we say problems, right, it's not like the coating falls apart. Not like the coating magically just falls away from the vehicle. It just will begin to degrade it, right? If anybody of you have done this test, which I did a long time ago, I coated a car and I put a bunch of water on it. And I could see the rainbowing then. I could see then the solvents and I could see some stuff, right? And I go, okay, this really is the answer when people want to know if it gets wet too fast, what really is happening. And water and solvents don't mix. I don't think I'm saying diluting it, but you are almost in a sense kind of diluting or wearing it too quickly.
Yeah, no, just if you have, heavy rain in the forecast and the customer can wait to pick it up tomorrow when the rain's gone, that's always a better solution. It's not always a solution that's available. So now you got to educate the customer, hey, when you get home, get the water off the car, in your garage or whatever. And best practices are, I would say this, I'd finish the coating. Let's say I finished it at 2:00. I tell my customer to pick it up about 4:30. Right? Give me a couple hours of cure time, especially in the summer. That's a great amount of time for Uno. Give it a couple hours. Nobody says you have to keep cars overnight. That's a pretty outdated thought process. It was a reality for a long time. It's just not a reality now. You're giving the coating the best chance you can give it, right? You've already done all this work. The coating should be protected at all costs for the first, 6 to 12 hours. I would say 6 to 24 hours, something like that, just to give it its best shot to do what it needs to do to set up and cure and do all those things. But look, man, sometimes life happens and you just got to work around it. Certainly not going to wash the coating away or make it so the coating doesn't work, but you're just introducing something at a time that's not the best decision to do it. So again, finish the coating at 2:00, say, hey, come pick it up at 4:30, 5:00. You're going to be set on the right path for the most part. So just give yourself a little buffer. And I do that with film. I do that with coatings. I do that with anything. If I was tinting cars, I would do that with tinting cars. The end result is just give yourself a couple hours to kind of make sure everything's acting properly. You didn't miss anything. You can go back over it one last time. Give yourself some freedom here. Sometimes that's not available. The customer really needs the vehicle and you got to go with what brought you there. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that, but I always just try to give people a 2-hour window after I'm done to come pick the car up.
And any of these type of questions are always great because there are differences between people's coatings. There are.
Yeah.
You mentioned that there are some that previously they were a certain way, and that's not ours. So these are great questions. We love that people ask, something so specific. Can I go down a dirt road? Love it. That's a great question. And go kill it out there in Texas. Yeah, you'll do great. It's similar to another guy that just started inside the group, and he started getting really aggressive with wash clay Uno. He said he has a Mustang that he's putting dose on and another one coming in for trade. Like, I'm really loving how many people are switching over and seeing how their coding process and application process is so much simplified, as well as, hey, yeah, you can run down a dirt road, a couple hours after you put on Uno.
And I think the important part of this, to give some context to this post that you're talking about now, this was a guy that really wasn't selling a lot of coatings, right? He was trying to get his feet wet. Uno's a great product to get your feet wet. It's also a great product for seasoned professionals, but there's so many of you that are trying to start in the big leagues without taking a swing, right? And you're finding it hard to sell something to somebody because you've never even sold something simple in the coating world. So start somewhere. Wash clay Uno, and then all of a sudden, this is what happens with this guy. Wash clay Uno a few cars, then a dose job comes along, then a tray. This has all happened in like a 45-day period for this guy. So he went from, I can't sell coating to anybody, to I've sold multiple Unos, I got a dose job coming in, I got a trade job. That's 45 days, guys. In 45 days, he's changed the path of his business, all because he started, again, where I believe you should start. So if you start in that way and get your feet wet and start to make people understand what coatings do, magically they're going to sign up for a 2-year and a 3-year and then maybe a 5-year as you start to build that clientele. So understand that that's the situation that you're in, is that a lot of you guys are struggling to sell coatings because you haven't started with something basic that you can get people to understand, and something, again, that's just a little more affordable. That doesn't mean you're stuck there the rest of your career. But look, we do a lot of Uno jobs, and it leads to a lot of trade jobs, and it leads to a lot of Sparta jobs through those families and those customers. It kind of is what it is. It's a great place to start.
Yeah. I had another one, which was pretty interesting. It's a great question also around coating. So a lot of coating questions this week, which is great. Said it has a vehicle that stayed outside, probably gets washed at least once a week or once every 1.5 weeks, right? So he's a weekly, bi-weekly type guy. Okay, cool. That's a lot of us. I'd love to wash mine every week, but does it happen? Don't know.
No, you got to pick up that beer at the stop and go or whatever it's called. You know what I mean? So you got to choose your priorities.
But so he asked, what coating should he put on if he washes his car once a week, or let's call it every 10 days? What coating should he put on? I go with Dose. I mean, because that's what I put on. I put it on each of my vehicles. That's just my favorite for what I can get the 2 years out of it with. To me, it's incredibly simple application. I really don't have any thought process. I can just go over it really simple and quick, and I get 2 years. I'll maintain it with ceramic snow. I'll slick it. I'll maintain it. So for me, I went Dose. Dose is always the one I'm going to recommend.
Yeah. And again, it depends on how long you're going to keep your cars, right? This is where we go back to, if I keep my cars 3 years, I'm slapping some tray on it. If I keep my cars long-term, that's the jump to Sparta, right? If I keep my cars on average 7+ years, I'm going to Sparta. If I'm about to flip this car in the next 18 months, I'm going to Uno. This is what I keep telling people so often, especially professionals, but those of you that are doing it yourself, you have to understand how long you keep the car should be the guiding light of what you put on the car. That's my opinion. Now, you're exactly right. Dose is a workhorse for something that gives you multiple years. If you care for it, you're probably going to get more than that. If you get to the 2-year mark and it's a little bit marred up and the surface isn't that great, you can polish it really simply and get into a reapplication. Dose is a great choice, but let's start with the basics. How long is the customer or you going to keep the car? And then base your coating on that. That's what I think is the best recommendation.
All right, final one. Afternoon, ladies and gents. I have a Mercedes-Benz with a matte paint job. What's a good way to decontaminate this, and any good advice to maintain this type of paint job? We see this kind of on a regular basis throughout the industry. Matte seems to be this big, giant question mark. And it's true. You do need to be cautious. You do. When it comes to decontaminating, right? I think the number one thing, of course, we're going to say Fuego is fine. But when you're thinking of decontamination on matte, it kind of goes into what's the pH level.
Yep.
That's the main thing, right?
Yep. So most iron removers out there, remember, are not pH neutral. We're finding that out with a lot of people burning paint, burning trim. Ours is pH neutral. That is a big leg up. So first, when you're decontaminating, you need to start with Fuego because maybe that solves your problems. If it's now paint overspray or it's some type of overspray from the road or whatever, and you're looking at claying, boy, you got to be careful because you can leave some shiny spots on some matte paint. Remember, I don't care if you're using a clay mitt, clay towel, decontamination towel, whatever word people are trying to say. When you're using a clay, there is a small amount of abrasive to that You can control that abrasive by extra lubrication. So I would tell you this. We had gotten into a situation with a bunch of Mac cars that were delivered from a manufacturer here. We were called in. This is probably 3-4 years ago. Called in, and we're talking about, I think, 22 to 25 cars, if I remember right. And we did have to clay. There was no choice. It was real ugly. And you could see the spots, and there was no getting around it. I will tell you this. You better have some really good fine clay and some claying skills where you know not to go too far. And luckily, I basically had to end up doing it all because of the risk, but the risk was told to the customer, the dealership, hey man, this could leave some stuff you don't want. We could be in a repaint situation. Is that necessary on someone's car that it's just theirs? It's not necessary. I mean, it sucks to have that contamination, but if you're confident in your skills, go to some inconspicuous spot behind the back wheel, see if you can get it with clay, if you can't get it with Fuego, but there is a danger to it. So if you're not comfortable, take a pass on it and leave it alone, because this could be an insurance claim situation for sure.
Okay. So we saw interesting that came out this weekend. Guy used some of our products, put it on his Rolls Royce. That was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Hey, the double umbrella Rolls Royce I saw. Hey, he's like, you know what? Let me get that 5,500 double option for the. It does rain in Tulsa, so I mean, I get it, but I don't think you need two in the driver's door. But I like the option.
I like it. Well, then you know what? I saw another vehicle that I went, is that the middle class Rolls Royce? And that vehicle is the Toyota Century.
I know. I saw.
What do you think about that thing? I think it's pretty crazy. It's outlandish. Like, I went Toyota. Oh, that's.
Yeah, so I have little mixed feelings. First of all, it's cool that they're making the car. I'm always for silliness. I mean, I don't think they'll get this will sell a lot overseas. People need to realize that Toyota's biggest profit margin is made overseas, not in the U.S. The U.S. is the lowest profit margin for Toyota. I would say this to Toyota. You got a lot of problems internally of building cars. Let's maybe just work on getting some Tacomas and some 4Runners out the door. Your inventory is ridiculously low. You guys are basically pissing everyone off because you got 2 and 3 markups on every vehicle now. I'd probably lean towards let's get some Corollas on the lot before I built, the Rolls Royce Cullinan for the, upper middle class. I don't think it'll sell well in the States. But look, Toyota's built outlandish. If everybody remembers, the LS 400 from the 90s was the best luxury car probably built back then by a landslide. So they've been in the luxury market for quite some time, but this will be something that sells better overseas than it'll ever sell in the United States, assuming they're selling it overseas, which I bet they are. They put a lot of thought into it, but again, for a company struggling to build cars, maybe time better spent somewhere else.
So it hasn't come across your order status, huh?
No. For those that want a Rolls Royce Cullinan, they'll buy a Cullinan. They're not going to buy a Toyota Century. Hey, you know what I would like to order? Let me get that Toyota Century. No, not synonymous with luxury around the high net worth individuals.
All right, so we have an ongoing problem. It will forever be a problem that we can never understand that it will ever go away. And it's not your views of Toyota. And it's not your views of the 2-door Jeep versus a 4-door Jeep at all, right? That's not the problem that will ever go away. That will always stick around.
That'll always be there. 100%. You're 100% right.
But we've got a problem, and that problem is with, for instance, I had a phone call the other day, last week, from a guy that wasn't too happy, and I understand. He ordered an overnighted 3 bottles of Uno. Once again, we always try and encourage people, don't trust in overnighting. You really should, unless you're in a deep, deep bind, right? But you should never get yourself in that bind. You should always give UPS plenty of time. Oh. Not only did they miss the next day, but then the next day after, then they damaged the product. How they damaged, which is what I said to you, right? How they damaged the way we wrap stuff and put it in the boxes, like how they damaged 3 bottles of Uno, I have no idea. But it is a problem that we can never skate away from. Or do we, right? We never do skate away from it either. We always try and go in and try and figure out, okay, we see that we have an issue. And then what do we try and do? We try and solve that problem.
Yep.
Now, the reason why I bring this up isn't to pat ourselves on the back, but is to actually have a discussion around problem solving. Why do we need to have a discussion about problem solving? Is there something around people and people we see that they maybe want to skate from problems, don't want to address problems, but really being a business owner or somebody that gets their business, if we're going to say above 125K, you actually want to be hunting problems.
Yeah. You want to insulate yourself from big problems, right? That's the whole theory. If you look at the situation that we're in with UPS, we control so much of our process compared to most people you buy chemicals from, right? We control a lot of our process. And where did that come from? COVID. We just saw the breakdown of everything around the world, and it's like, hey, we can't take a chance with our business. So there was our first major problem together in business was, we have some weaknesses, right? We have some things out of our control that we need to bring into our control right now, fast as possible, which we did at great pain to us, right? A lot of growing pains, a lot of financial investment, a lot of things that we had to do as individuals of owners of the company to bulletproof ourselves to the best of our ability going forward. If you look at a part of our business we're never going to control, it's shipping. Whether you pick USPS or FedEx or UPS, like we have a contract with UPS, we can't fix what UPS does. We have no control. So when we get news that 3 bottles of coating were broken in a tiny little box that's completely insulated with packing paper and packing peanuts and wrapped up coating bottles and this and that, you look around and go, how did this happen? And I think the easiest thing for any of us to do, you and I included, was what you did. You called me and you go, how does this even happen? Right? But how quickly you turn to, how do we keep this from happening, is the most important part of the conversation. Because now it's your job to idiot-proof for UPS getting your product to the end consumer. It's our job. I mean, it sucks it's our job because these guys are supposedly making $150,000 a year, and we know nobody does anything like the union. You know, nobody does anything like the union. Those guys are tip-top. Well, if you dealt with UPS or you've driven a UAW-built car in the last 20 years, you realize that maybe isn't the truth, is that they're not on top of it. And guess what? It's our job to bulletproof our packages. So an ongoing conversation for us is, how do we bulletproof our packages so this doesn't happen? Even going as far, Marty, as talking to our bottle manufacturers and saying, we need a bottle manufactured to a better spec. This was a conversation we just had last week. And there's so many guys out there that don't understand the boxes, the bottles.
We've switched boxes. Like, we've tried different boxes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I said this on Saturday's episode. When you put business owner next to your name, you ain't just a detailer anymore. You're not just a plumber anymore. You're not just a chemical manufacturer. You're the owner of that business. And so every mistake is owned by you, and every success is owned by your team. As an owner, you're there to fix the problems. You're not there to take all the credit. And that's a tough thing for guys. It was a very tough thing for me to get across to myself, you know, to understand what you were really here to do.
I think detailers that might be listening go, okay, that's great. Like, I'm glad you guys are doing that. You know, good job.
Yeah.
What the hell's it got to do with me? Right? Like, that's got to be a thought process that some of them have started to go through. And what does it have to do with you? Well, it has to do with what Nick just said. If you're going to be a business owner, you're going to put that in front of your name, you actually need to, and this is going to be one of those things you won't hear on those other ones, right? Like, you can't go to training and listen to this podcast and get this type of information, but should you? Yes. Though, how much? That's the question mark. Time do you spend trying to come up with, right? Not create these random problems that we've talked about. People can create these random weird problems, but time spent digesting and trying to solve problems, and maybe not even problems that are caused by you or your team.
Yeah, I would say today that's most of my day. I'm not even sure it even there's a close second, right? It's trying to make your process better, or let's use an example here. This guy needed overnight coating. You know how he could have insulated himself? Keep a couple extra coating bottles at all time, right? Sounds simple, but it doesn't get done, right? It doesn't get done on a large scale, by the way. This isn't like a one-off. We get hit up for overnight shipping constantly. And that's okay. We're here to help you, but you're not insulating your business from the problems that could arise outside of your control. You can't control UPS. We can't control UPS. And here's a guy that may be waiting on coating bottles that he should have already had in stock and been restocked. This should have been a restock, not a lifeline to his business. And by the way, I've made this mistake myself. This is not a judgment. We've all screwed up. I mean, we screw up every day if you own a business and you're honest with yourself. You do something every day, you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I mean, especially when you get to a certain size, it's like, my buy and sell today. I had a gut feeling we shouldn't have taken care of this guy. We did. It is what it is. So there's a mistake. I knew he wasn't right for our business. I knew my guys weren't going to get taken care of. Now I got to take care of them, this and that. Not all business is created equal. I know that. I went ahead anyway to try to help out a customer's friend, a customer's coworker. Here I am. I knew better and I didn't do better. And that's okay. We'll make it right financially with my guys and you move on down the road. But you're going to make mistakes every day, right? That's just the nature of it. But if you can insulate yourself from major problems that could arise for your business, that's your job. And I would say, truthfully, that's probably most of my day.
So insulation is an interesting word to use there, right? Like we talk about protecting, and insulating is another form of protection, right? Like there's protection of, I got to protect my business from competitors, right? Maybe not. I mean, people have different opinions on that. We got to protect ourselves from, maybe a lot of people didn't understand where the market was. So we got to make sure we protect ourselves there. The word insulation, that's a little bit deeper though. That's more of, and I guess we got to start asking the question, does that become more of something we might have learned in life? Like a life skill is more insulating yourself from issues that could arrive.
Yeah. I mean, make it simple. A lot of people got hurt in 2008, 9, 10, 11 in the housing market. They bought houses they couldn't afford. They signed documents they didn't understand. They didn't insulate themselves from future problems, right? You look at it today, the rise in cost of groceries, the rise in cost in gas, how many people insulated themselves? And by the way, you don't have to have a lot of money to insulate yourself from those things. You just have to understand that things are going to go up and down and you have no control over it. So we would call it the rainy day fund, right? Socking away a little bit of cash. Nobody's telling you to take all your money and put it into a little rainy day fund, but, take 10% every month. And when the rainy day comes and prices go a little crazy, you've given yourself a little breathing room, therefore insulating yourself a little bit and giving yourself a little time to get things figured out. And that goes to every part of life. And look, man, we all screw this up. There's times you think you're protected and you think you did all the right things and you didn't. And those are called hard lessons that I've probably learned far too often in my life. Same with you. This isn't about trying to be perfect. This is trying to be better. Right. And that's the mindset that I think a lot of times gets lost in these types of conversations. If you're always actually trying to do better, you do want to fix the problems. That doesn't mean you're going to get it right, but you're giving it an effort, right? You're giving it a well thought out, I think this will solve our problems. Look, we have gone through a many iterations of trying to get the packaging to a perfect place. We'll go through many more iterations over the next 5, 10, 15 years to try to get it where we've insulated ourselves from UPS or a freight company. We're never going to get it perfect, but it's your job to not point the finger at UPS, to not point the finger at someone else and say, okay, how do I make it so this doesn't happen to me again? That's the bare minimum. I mean, look, there's a lot of people that got wiped out in 2008 have made the exact same mistakes after 2008. You got family and friends you can look at and say, wow, they didn't learn their lesson. That's okay. But, you kind of listen to this podcast, hopefully, because, we bring up some things, we talk about some things, you think about some things. And look, man, the rainy day fund is the top of the list of insulating yourself from eggs tripling in price and milk going up and food getting out of control. Yeah, man, you couldn't have seen it coming, but that's why it's called a rainy day fund. Whatever happens down the road, I got a little something to give me a little breathing room that the other guy may not have. And it just puts you in a better position.
Okay, so let's talk about another way we could insulate. And let's use the illustration of Ford versus Audi. Now, how's that illustration? That's interesting. Well, let's compare Ford's interior with Audi's interior. And let's use that comparison and let's illustrate then internally what might go through our heads when we're evaluating what we do as a business, right? Problems that we might have, things that we know that we're going to, have to deal with, could be customer to employee, right? Could be quality, could be pricing, could be all kinds of stuff that we could begin to throw in there of, hey, this is something I need to make sure that I address. So some of us do, and some of us don't.
Yeah. I mean, look at Ford for years and Chevy and Dodge. They've never made the best interior of cars. For the life of me, I can't figure it out. Just by sheer luck, you think you would have hired somebody from Audi's interior group in the last 30 years to get it cleaned up and say, hey, they built a great interior. Let's go hire Doug, who's been working for Audi for 20 years, and offer him an extra $50,000 or $100,000 to get us right. Just hasn't happened. You want to know why? Because most of the people in Ford are at Ford for like 20 and 30 years. They don't look for outside talent and they don't look for people that are solving their problems. They just go, oh, we're going to promote Jim. And, Jim worked here. And now we're going to promote Jim. And that all sounds good if Jim has the experience to fix your problems. But guess what? Jim's been raised at Ford, been raised at Chevy, been raised at Dodge. He doesn't know a better way. So for an American manufacturer, not to look at BMW and Audi and all these other companies that do the interior better and go, you know what? Why don't we get an outside hire here and just tidy this thing up, shows you a manufacturing and a business philosophy that they don't think they have to fix the problem. Because you get inside of a new Bronco now, and look, I like the Bronco as a $50,000 car. I've stated that before. It's not $80,000, but it's a good $50,000 car. But if you're going to sell it for $80,000 like they've been doing, put some interior thought into it and stop with the cheap plastics and stop with the bad seats and the bad center console and the bad fit and finish on the interior. But they just have never addressed it. Do you think for the life of me I can understand it? No, because I would have just said, how do we go hire that guy from Audi who's killing it on the interior? Like, you got endless money in these OEMs. Why aren't you they just don't want to do it. And now there's some cracks in the armor here for the OEMs as the strikes have happened, as people started to say your prices are out of control. Now now people are going to tell you how bad things are. And here we are, right? We're at the end of the line here for a lot of these OEMs. They don't know how they're going to make the switch to EVs, but also they never solved a lot of their problems along the way either. And the interior is a great example of that.
All right. So I've been wanting to know something. All right. You cook your steaks. Listen, what type of A1 sauce you putting on there?
Come on, dog. I'm telling you, you're pushing me, Marty. You're pushing me, dude.
All right. So you cook a burger. You got a mustard choice?
I'm a mayo guy. I like light mayo.
Hot dog? You doing ketchup?
Ketchup and mustard. Yeah.
And mustard?
Yeah.
All right. So when you go get the ketchup and the mustard, what's the first thing you do?
Well, Marty, you got to shake it, dude. I mean, it separates, so you got to shake it. Yes, I shake up my condiments.
All right. Let's say you go out and you want to go clean your car. You grab some glass cleaner. What's the first thing you do?
Shake the bottle. You
grab some Revive. You want to go clean the inside of the car. What's the first thing that you do?
Shake the bottle.
You think it's dumb luck? You just happened onto that? Like you just always go grab your... Because I know now that listeners are going to go when they go to their fridge and they go grab whatever. I know you don't do A1 steak sauce. I know you don't. I just had to, right? I had to.
I hear you.
You got to, like, do you shake it? And if you shake that, when you go grab a product that you go to clean a car with, do you or do you not shake that? And why don't you? It's a very curious type question. And, you and I joke around back and forth. I call you the master shaker. Right?
Oh yeah. Yep. Hey, that is very true. You got me there. I may take it to the extreme. There's no doubt, but look, I started in this business compound and polishing cars. And the one thing you weren't going to do with those old 3M gritty polishes and compounds is not shake them. They would separate heavily. The abrasives would be all at the bottom. By the way, that's still the case today. I'm sure most of you don't polish a car without shaking pretty vigorously the polish and compound. At least I hope you don't. That's absolutely something you should do. There's a lot of reasons for it, but the main reason is it's the right thing to do. It puts you in the best position for your chemical to work the best. And it's the same with anything you use. I don't care if it's shampoo. I don't care if it's conditioner. If things have multiple ingredients in liquid form, and people will remember this from Snapple bottles. Maybe some guys still drink it. You get
Snapple
a Snapple
bottles. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on here.
I might be a little old. I'm pretty sure Snapple's still a thing. But they
when it hit, Snapple was the only thing you drank. You love hitting that
and by the way, that was the instructions. The instructions were to hit the bottom of the bottle, and you'd see the sentiment at the bottom of the bottle, and then all of a sudden you shook it and it wasn't there anymore. And so there's a lot of guys, and I didn't know this was happening, or we would have talked about this a long time ago, that don't understand that when you have I don't care if something has water in it and then another solution, which by the way, water is the biggest binder in the chemical world. So if there's water and then there's a mixture of chemicals, that is going to separate on some level. All of you have seen it. So if you don't get in a habit of shaking everything, you're only making your life harder. Because what's going to happen is for the first quarter of the bottle that you use, you're going to get this really concentrated cleaner or interior cleaner or whatever it is. Then the next 3/4 of the bottle, you're going to be like, this product doesn't work the same. Well, you took all of the concentrated formula out of there, and now you're basically just spraying a little bit of water with a little bit of the concentrate in there.
All right, here's a really cool example for people that maybe if they don't see that is not myself, I don't use shampoo, but if you have a wife that uses shampoo, or if you're blessed with fine locks like Nick, then you use shampoo. I do remember, 10 something years ago when I used to get a brand new bottle of shampoo, I always went, oh man, I love this stuff. But I want everybody to go ask their wife, right? What do they feel towards the end of a bottle of shampoo? How many of them want to go get a new one when there's still a quarter of it left at the bottom?
Yep.
And us dudes were like, hey, what are you talking about? You got shampoo right there. Like, nah, I need new.
Yeah. And they don't realize, many people don't realize what they're seeing. They know that's not working as well towards the end of the bottle, but they don't know why. Now, I'm not saying you need to shake shampoo every day, but once a week, does it need a little shake? Probably. Would it be better if you shook it every day? Yeah, it would be better every day. Now, people can lie to you about this, but this is how chemistry works. Even if every time we get a coating bottle in my company, whether we've opened it or not opened it, we give it and we turn it up. We don't shake coating, just so we're clear. We just turn the bottle upside down a couple times, real lightly to mix everything in. Now, I'm not going to sit there and see a bunch of separation in a coating bottle, but again, I'm just trying to give the chemistry the best chance to work for me. A couple little tips over 2 to 3 times, and that coating is mixed in a little bit better. It's just the reality of it. And there's too many guys that I really apologize for this. If I knew this was a problem, we would have talked about it very seriously a long time ago. I pick up a bottle of anything, and on the way to using it, even if it's 2 feet, I'm shaking that bottle. And most of the time, like think of cleaning of an interior. When I'm walking around the car with Revive, I'm shaking it door to door. Now, it could be excessive. It's just a habit that I developed to eliminate any problem. Because, Marty, you'll remember this, and many of you out there that have used a degreaser. a lot of rims magically get burnt the first time out of the day when they use that bottle that was sitting overnight. That was the reality. Want to know why? Because they took all that degreaser concentrate and started spraying it on rims, and there was no water, there was no mixture. So now it's just hot degreaser going on to the surface. And they're like, wow, I just got to work and burnt rims. It's like, yeah, because you didn't shake up the degreaser and actually get the concentrate out of the bottom. This is what chemicals are supposed to do. This is how they're actually designed. Like, people can think whatever they want. This is exactly what Johnson & Johnson and Procter & Gamble and Dow and everybody knows. At the end of the day, if you're going to use detailing chemicals, you should be consistently shaking up those chemicals.
I think an easy one is, right, if I've diluted Ultra Dress. It's a water-soluble product, but I've basically have changed the way it was sent out. I should regularly go back and kind of look at it and just give it a couple shakes. Not a problem. Yeah. Slick, right? That's one. Definitely you should shake up Slick on a daily, regular basis. That's another. When we talk about shake, and this is what I call you the master shaker, is because we're not really talking about, because when it was, as we would talk about this, I was like, dude, how much are you shaking? Like, we're not talking about like, come on, like a master shaker, right? Like just a couple of, just a couple of movements.
Yeah. Just walk into the thing, give it a couple, you're walking to the car, give it a couple rattles with your hand there. Like it just gives you a better opportunity. And what I think, if you're a guy not doing that, if you started this habit today, you'd be like, wow, I can't believe I wasn't always doing this. Because what you're going to find is your streaking goes down on a final touch product or whatever it is. You're just going to be like, oh, I should have been doing this the whole time. And Ultra Dress is a great example. You cut it, 3 or 4 to 1. By the time you get to the end of the bottle, if you haven't kept mixing that product, guess what's going to happen? And by the way, this goes for everybody's product. I don't care whose product I was using, and I used many different companies' products and tested them, whatever. I did the same thing for them. This isn't something that's unique to us. It's literally every chemical in the world has this reality. And one that nobody ever does is milk. If you actually drink really healthy milk, you should be mixing, you should literally like take the gallon and give it a little swirl around, because it's going to taste better and you're going to get a little separation and a good, milk. I don't drink milk, but just letting you know.
I shake my almond milk.
There you go. I didn't know almonds could produce milk, so that must be good ingredients in the almond milk.
Now you know.
I'm finding out new stuff every day.
You do.
I'm finding out about the hot spots in Tulsa to get beer and get invited to parties and, all this other stuff. So, what was that place called?
I don't even know. Come and
go. There
Come
you
and
go.
go. Great place.
Wow.
Nick, I wanna ask this question, as we kind of close down, is do you trust your team? And at what level do you trust them? I think this is a interesting question for a lot of guys, that whether or not they're wanting to hire people. Listen, let's just go ahead and say it, get the elephant out of the room. The number one thing that we don't trust employees is that they're going to go take my business, right? I'm going to train an employee. We recently took one of ours to do some extra training. We increased our knowledge on making some stuff, and we took him, and that was questioned to me. You trust him that much to learn that? Like it's interesting, like trusting your teammates, trusting people that you have come work for you. What level do you put your trust in them? And then, I guess, what parts do you not trust them in?
Well, look, in my business today, I don't have a choice. If you're going to grow, you don't have a choice but to trust people, because there's going to be no way to grow, right? We hear about all this micromanagement stuff that goes on, guys measuring people's chemicals at the end of the day of their team members and stuff like that. Let me tell you something, man. That's so counterproductive. It's so distrusting. It's going to get people to hate working for you. The reality is you don't have a choice but to trust people. And you got to go into this whole thing realizing 90% of people are good people. They may be incompetent or they're not going to do a good job for you, but they're not going to steal from you. And you know what? The guys that do steal from you, it shows itself pretty quickly, and you get rid of them. And yeah, man, they stole something from me. Big freaking deal. you move on with your life. There's a lot of guys, and I was very guilty of this, so it's not a judgment. You're making the choice to hire, you need to make the choice to hire. And there's just realities with hiring people. But yeah, man, somebody's going to maybe do something. But we've had people come into the community pub and directly steal everything you ever did on this podcast, right? People don't have to work for you to steal from you. Like that just happens in the world. And so a lot of guys are worried about that, and I get it, and I've been there. But you're just not going to get anywhere doing that. That's the unfortunate part, is you're really not hurting anybody but yourself.
So this is a statement that I want to kind of toss back and forth a little bit, is maybe what you don't trust in somebody is something that maybe they shouldn't trust in you.
Yep.
Right? Like maybe some things that business owners put down onto their team members is because that's the type of team member or employee, whichever you want to say, that they were. I don't trust this guy. He took too long, right? Oh, did you used to take too long? Right? Like, I don't trust this. And I've
said this, right? I mean, this was my whole theory around micromanagement. And a lot of guys micromanage because they don't want to be stolen from. And what I found is that the people that are so worried about somebody stealing from them would have stole from someone else. That's what they're telling me by doing that. Right? So it's a lot of our insecurities about the things we may have done or may have thought about doing. Like a lot of guys talk to me about, hey, when I have my guys work on an expensive car, they're going to take it for a joyride. I'm like, how many times does that happen? They're like, never. I said, yeah, because most people don't even feel comfortable going into a supercar. Most people don't even know how to turn them on, let alone drive them. Why are you concerned about that? And oh, by the way, do you have insurance? Yeah, I have insurance. Okay, man. I mean, it may happen. It may happen. I'm not saying you're wrong and that there's a 10% chance that could happen. But the reality is you're not going to stop it by standing over their shoulder or putting cameras throughout your shop and, always micromanaging. But why are you so worried about that? Because you would have done it. And the number one thing, I've seen this from buddies that have started companies or guys that I've known somehow through life that I know were finding a way to game the system and put a little extra money in their pocket. Let's just use those terms. Now their big concern is this guy's out in the parking lot stealing from me. This guy's out doing this. This guy's out doing that. It's like, dude, you're only worried about that because that's what you would have done. So if you would have stolen from somebody, an employer, and you have the fear your people are going to steal from you, it's because you stole from an employer or you would steal if you were in their situation. That's where micromanagement comes from. It doesn't come from a place of strength. And look, everybody's been guilty of it. I've been guilty of it. When you first start hiring people, you don't even know what the hell you're doing. You're just trying to figure it out. I mean, that's what I think people should take away from our podcast is we're trying to get you to not make the mistakes that we made. That's what a lot of our conversation is. Like, I made a shit ton of mistakes when I first started hiring, but now today I don't have a choice but to trust people. At HQ, we don't have a choice but to trust people or we're not going to grow. There's nothing we can do.
But there is, when you're small, there's this very doubt that you should trust somebody. It is like, there was no reason to even try and hint around it. There's plenty of people that distrust another human. Where does that distrust, and I want us to all examine for a little second, not, is it something that, psychosomatic, I don't mean you as a person, right? Like maybe there's a distrust from business to employee because the processes aren't as dialed in as we like to see the cars dialed in. So then when it comes time to trust the team member to do the results, we might ought to look at ourselves and wonder, what am I not doing that's not allowing me to trust this person? Because if I've done everything I should then be able to let somebody do something else and do their job.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. And I think we had this, like I said, we were going to some training on some chemical production stuff. And, you got posed the question. I mean, why would you bring him in on that? Well, Marty, you can't mix every chemical. There's a lot of things going on at HQ. You can't be back there all the time mixing big batches. We need to bring some teammates along. By the way, they're getting to make more money. I mean, this gentleman's gotten a significant raise from us here recently because he's earned it. not because we gave it as charity. He's great at what he does, and he's earned the right for us to say, hey man, let us bring you on this cool journey, and you can learn a skill of actually helping us produce our chemicals. That's a cool thing. Don't you want to include them? I don't want to. I want my guys to be included in the joke, and I want my guys to be included in the good stuff. And today, man, I hope my guys all kill it and they all make a lot more money. And you know what? Some years we may look and I have so many expenses, they've made more money than me. That's great, man. It doesn't bother me.
Hey,
Like
this
I just
sounds
don't get
all
all
great.
worked up.
Sounds all great, but I can't trust my guy to clean a rim.
Then you don't have a good process. Plain and simple, like you said. It doesn't take us long to get guys up to speed. Look, I had to look in the mirror. I'll be the first one to tell you, I wasn't really good at teaching people my process. I had to get better at it, and I can get better at it every day. Now, some of my guys are way better at teaching it than me, and that's what you want. You want to put them in positions to own things in the company that they're great at. And if you want guys to succeed with you, you have to be very, very upfront with yourself that you got to stop all this childish worrying, and you got to just put people in places to succeed. And you know what? Some are going to succeed and some are going to fail, and that's okay. But I'm not going to do it sitting there sweating at night. Did a guy get me out of $5, 10? I mean, we hear these stories from big detailing companies, supposedly doing all this work, and the stuff is so toxic. Nobody's going to want to work for that guy long term. And it turns out vendor relationships are strained. This guy's not an honest person. And now all of a sudden, when you start peeling the onion back, what you realize is all the distrust of his team members come from he's not doing business in a very honest way. And you know what, man? If you make mistakes, you make mistakes. But if you think people aren't trustworthy, it's largely because you don't think you're trustworthy, and you don't understand. You got to put people in a position to succeed. And I love your point about the processes. If your processes are locked in and you know how to teach it, very rarely are they going to have trouble picking it up. You'll have that from time to time, but very rarely. I mean, you ran production situations. When you were dialed in training people, it doesn't take long to pick up.
Yeah, that's true. So the number one thing there that people distrust is, well, I distrust that they're not going to stay with me. They're going to leave and they're going to go start their own detailing business. Right? Absolutely. Or, right, like that's number one A. Number one B, which we've seen. Hey, I'm going to trust these people to go do their thing, and I'm going to let them do it, and I'm going to go way over here, and I'm not really going to be involved with them.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to trust that they do everything that they're supposed to. 6 months later, they leave.
Yep.
Right? Like,
well, they weren't really a team member.
Yeah.
Right? They weren't a team member. We've heard this a lot. Guys think they're going to hire people, put them out on their own within 6 months, and they're going to sit back and they're going to, send us pictures of them drinking beer at noon. They think that's what it is. I mean, that's not my day. My day is, as you see quite often, taking a phone call. Hey, we got a problem. Hey, we got this. You heard me even say to my guy, hey, if you run into something, I'll run down there. Let me know if there's a problem. I'll come down with you guys and make sure this thing gets handled right. You're a support system. But what a lot of people do is they hire people for a way to get out of doing the work. And then that means they're out of doing any work. Bottom line is, man, my guys can call me at a drop of a hat. And if I got to be somewhere, I'll be there. That's not a question on them. And the other thing is they know I'm going to spot show up. Right? I don't do anything consistently, meaning I don't show up at the same customers at the same time, I don't do that. Then the other thing is I'll go in the garage and check the cars. I'm not doing it to be a jerk. I'm not making a big scene of it, but I'll come out and see them and say, hey, did you touch that car? Yeah, it's all detailed. May want to check the back of it. They know I'm around. They know I'm paying attention. I'm not doing anything to be a jerk. I'm just there to help. We had a situation where a guy was skipping something on an interior recently. I said, hey, all cars this week, you better go hit this spot on the interior. You've let it go. You got to clean it up. I went back. I spot checked 3 or 4 different clients that he hits on different parts of the week or different jobs that we did that were one-off jobs, and it was fixed. But it's my job. You're always going to be quality control if you're the owner. That's never going to leave. And like you said, a lot of guys want to say, well, I trust them because I sent them out on their own. Yeah, dude, you got to be the support system. The most important thing is you're the support system for all this, not you're out, sending me pictures of sitting home at noon. And by the way, we've gotten those pictures. So it's not me saying something off the cuff. You and I have gotten those pictures far too often. You think you're being trustworthy or you're trusting of those people. The reality is, man, you got to always be around. You got to know all your team members need to know you're there to help them. You're there to get the job done. If they need something, you're there. But they also need to know I'm holding you accountable on some level. And that's a very fine line that people screw up. It's not easy to find.
So trusting somebody to do their job while I get to go be the owner. I mean, that's sort of what I'm supposed to do there, right? I'm supposed to go be the owner. Like, they're supposed to do their job, trusting them to do their job. I'm going to go be the owner. It doesn't matter of what I'm doing.
Yep. Well, they see it. I mean, we've heard from a lot of shop owners, oh, I had a tough 6 months. I wasn't around. I just lost these 2 employees. And I'm like, of course they left. Why wouldn't they leave? They weren't seeing you open the shop. They weren't seeing you get there early. They weren't seeing you leave late. They're going to get pissed off, especially when you're running a small, tight-knit business. It's much different if you got 200 employees, right? You got people in the middle of all that. You got 500 employees, 1,000, 10,000. That's a whole different animal. When you're running a small business, man, they want to know you're in the thick of it with them. And if you aren't, they're going to hold resentment and say, this guy's just taking a check. You don't want that to happen, but none of us can fix human nature. And then they're going to start counting your money, right? They're going to be like, oh, he's charging this for this job. I'm only getting paid this. That's what they're going to do. That happens. That's happened to me in my career. It's happened to you in your career. It's going to continue to happen because it's human nature. And so you got to fend all of that off by being the right kind of boss to the best of your ability. And what that means is you're in the middle of it. That doesn't mean you're doing the work. But when's the last time, if you have a team, did you pick up a piece of film and help them lay it down if you're a PPF shop, or lay some tint with them, or go out and clean a rim with them, just to make sure they don't know that you're checking on that the process is getting done right, and you're also giving a helping hand. I mean, look, dude, I don't want to clean rims anymore. I'll be upfront with everybody. But do I jump in and do it? Yeah, I do. Why? Number one, I want to hang out with my guys. I want to joke around. I want to feel like I'm part of the team and I'm in it with them. The other part is that's what matters to them, that you're not isolating them away from anything. I want to do this shit. If I didn't want it, I would have sold VR when I got an offer of a big number years ago. I like what I'm doing. That doesn't mean I want to do it all day. And I got a different thing that I'm in charge of now, but I still got to go be in the middle of all of this with them. It'd be like a coach on an NBA team or NFL team not being at the game on Sunday. You'd be like, that's kind of strange. You know what I mean? It's like, where's he at? Yeah, he's at the bar. It's like you would find that kind of strange, but that's what guys think this all is. It just isn't. And we hear that far too often. They think they're going to hire somebody and they're never going to have to do anything anymore. That never works. There's no such thing as that I've seen.
Yeah. All right, guys. Hope you all enjoyed the episode. Got a lot of value out of it. Great discussion, and we'll see you all at the HyperCLEAN Specialist Group on Facebook.
All right, guys.